In today's video, I want to discuss this genre and how you can create an amazing manga, comic, or light novel in the pirate genre. My first tip is consider how realistic you want the pirates to be. Pirates did many things in history, and while not all pirates have to be this way, many pirates back in history are considered to be quite dangerous and ruthless. So when you're creating the pirates in your book, you need to consider how realistic you really want the pirates to be. Do you want them to be more dangerous pirates, characters who might destroy places or steal items? Or do you want these pirates to be more fun and adventurous, similar to the characters in One Piece? Whichever way you do it, consider exactly how close to history you really want these pirates to be, or how much you want to add to make your story more unique and different from the regular pirates. Your story might only be loosely based off the historical aspects of pirates, or you may choose to go fully into depth on the history of the pirates and use that inspiration in your book. My second tip is give your characters a powerful goal. Why do your characters want to be pirates? Giving your character an important goal is really important because it helps your characters always strive towards that main goal and always be taking action throughout your book. A character without a goal creates a story that feels flat and with pacing that feels a little bit strange. So always ensure that you give your characters goals, whether they're the main character, the side character, the secondary characters, whichever characters you would like. Ensure you give them a reason, something that they want to achieve throughout your book. Now, for your main character especially, this goal is going to be really important. For example, your character might have someone important to them who was taken across the sea, for example. Maybe there's another group of bad pirates who took someone important to your character or took an important item. So your character's main goal might be to cross the sea and get this person or item back. Or your character might simply have a goal that they want to explore the world. Whatever your character's important goal is, consider this goal and how your character might achieve it throughout your book. My third tip is create a strong inciting incident. What really makes them want to achieve their goal? So basically the inciting incident is what forces your character to take action. So if you think about an inciting incident, something that occurs that forces your characters to take action, that's a really good way to push your characters into the story, and it also makes your character's goal more urgent as well. For example, your character might have a time limit for their goal. Maybe they have to achieve this goal really quickly, otherwise something bad is going to happen. Or maybe a really dire situation occurs that forces your character to need to do this, otherwise nothing is going to change for your character. So these are just some examples of how you could create an inciting incident, but I recommend looking at your overall story and thinking about what would need to happen to really push your character into action and force them to do these things to achieve their goal in the book. My fourth tip is develop conflicts over the story related to them being a pirate. In order to keep your story interesting, there should always be a problem that your character needs to solve. The only time in your book where there should be no problems is at the very end when you're tying things up and finishing your book. So in the meantime, as your character is going through your book, there should always be a problem or conflict that they need to solve. For example, there might be a certain item that goes missing that's really important. There could be conflicts in the forms of other characters, maybe other pirates who are dangerous and are trying to hurt your character or trying to take something important from your character. Or your character might be going through a lot of internal conflicts as well, a lot of struggles where maybe they're not sure if they want to be a pirate or maybe they're feeling a bit afraid. All of these in turn can become conflicts in your story, and conflicts are essentially obstacles that are stopping your character from achieving their goals. When there's an obstacle, it pushes your character to do better, to learn more, and to just grow as a character in general. So I highly recommend that if you're stuck on your story and you don't really know what to do next, consider if there's a conflict that you can add to push your character forward. My fifth tip is create interesting locations for your characters to discover. One really important attribute of the pirate genre is that it leaves a lot of opportunity for exploration. If you have your characters crossing the sea on a ship, there are many opportunities for various islands, cities, locations that your characters can explore. So I highly recommend that when you're creating your pirate story, you should also give lots of locations, whether they are places across the sea or places within your character's town that your character can discover. It could even be something as simple as places underneath the ocean, for example. Maybe there's caves underwater. So when you're developing your story, I highly recommend maybe writing down a list of locations your characters could discover, or even drawing a map. Maybe you could draw a map of all the different places your characters can find as they are going on the ship across the ocean or discovering new places within their town. keeps your story very interesting when your character is constantly finding new places with interesting artifacts, interesting history, and a bunch of interesting characters to discover. My sixth tip is progress the story with each new character, location, or object. As I mentioned in the previous tip, exploration can be really interesting, but it can get tedious after a while if you're constantly having your character discover new places, but none of them really add up to the main purpose of your book. That's why it's important that when you are introducing new locations, objects, or characters, there should always be a purpose. They should always add something to the main goal of your book. So for example, if your character discovers a new location, maybe they find something there that's a clue towards how they might achieve their main goals in the book. They might discover an artifact that helps them to gain new powers and abilities. They might discover a character who wants to help them on their quest. So whatever it is, whenever your character is going to a new place or a new location, or if they discover a certain object, it should have a bigger, greater purpose in your book. When you introduce something in your story, it has to have a greater purpose. Don't just introduce objects or locations just for the sake of having a location or object. Otherwise, that might slow down the pacing of your book, and your readers might wonder why it was there in the first place. But if you give each location and object and character a certain purpose in the main goal of your book, it's going to help that story to be a lot more compelling and entertaining in the long run. That's one of the reasons why One Piece manages to continue for such a long time. In every location, with every character, and with every object, there's always a bigger meaning behind it, and it's always leading up to the bigger goals of the story. My seventh tip is give your character a personal goal, aside from being a pirate. So yes, your character might want to be a pirate, and that might be the main goal of the story. However, I highly recommend that you also give your character a personal goal, something that they personally want to achieve, something that might make them happy, and something that might help them to grow as a character. So this could be something like a job or career goal. For example, they might want to be a writer, and that's a personal goal for them. They might wish to help others in their daily lives, and that's another personal goal. They might simply want to discover lots of really interesting places and write about these places, and that's another example of personal goal. So when you're creating your characters, if you want your characters to feel more realistic and meaningful, I highly recommend you give each of your characters their own personal goal that they should strive towards throughout your book, because that brings your characters from feeling like 2D characters on a page to becoming far more realistic. It's when you give them their own meanings in their lives and give them something that they want to achieve throughout your story. My eighth tip is create an end goal. Consider what needs to happen to effectively end your story. Because the pirate genre is usually paired up with adventure, and it usually has a lot of exploration and discovery throughout the book of different locations, different characters, and different objects, it can be hard to know exactly how your story should end. You might continue to write your book and wonder, well, what effectively ends this story? And eventually your story will have to come to an end. So I highly recommend that from the start, you have an idea in mind of how exactly you intend to end it. You really need to think about what event needs to happen in order to effectively end this story. Now in One Piece, because the One Piece is so consistently referenced, it can be imagined that the story would effectively end by Luffy finding the One Piece and Luffy becoming king of the pirates. So that's an example of how One Piece would effectively end. I don't know if it might end some other way, of course, but we can assume that by the ending of the story, those two things will have happened. But when you're creating your book, you need to consider what event and what goal needs to be achieved for you to be able to end the book. This might be your character finding that object that's really important to them. It might be your character achieving their goals, whether it's their goals of being a writer or doing some other personal goal. Or it might simply be finding a place that they really wanted to find after all those years. So when you're creating your story, think about what your character needs to achieve and what needs to happen to actually end the book. And when you do this, you'll consistently be able to strive towards that end goal and help all these little plot points and all these little parts of the story make sense in the long run. Thank you so much for watching my video today, everyone. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please let me know in the comment section down below. Let me know what kind of pirate mangas, comics, or light novels you're creating, because I'd really love to hear about them. Feel free to tag me on any of my social media at @MinasCross, because I always enjoy hearing about the projects that you're creating. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!